Mary.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yes.
Glad you're here.
Wonderful.
Long time no see.
Welcome to the Mystery Channel, where the veil is thin and the echoes of ancient knowledge speak through myth, magic, and the turning of the cards.
I know. Have we seen each other before?
Yeah, on the internet.
On the internet,
pictures,
yeah. But not like this.
Yeah.
So hi, Morgan.
Hello.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you in person.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you very much, Mary, to be here. We really appreciate it. So we had all the big names in cartomancy, so you cannot miss out because you maybe like the Queen of Cartomancy, and I don't.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think you want to hear it, but you are that anyway. At least that's what you are for me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I know that I have to say that since Rachel Pollack died, suddenly there's a ton of attention on me. And it's kind of like grab us while we can, because in a month or month and a half, I turned 78 for the 78 cards of the tarot.
Oh,
yes.
No, but I love all your books. And because I actually recently just got the forward one from the tarot archetype too, because you recommended it, you know. But I like how you go back to the Golden Dawn, so that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's my base for tarot, and it's such a rich system. I don't believe that other people have to follow it, but it's so rich that I get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's well, because of that, I bought all the books for it, so I've been diving into all of that this year.
Yeah. Well, correspondences really work together, and actually my most recent work has been going into some of the things that are revealed by the astrological correspondences, not from a chart reading perspective, but from the point of view of the towers, Mars, Libra and Venus, Libra and Justice together. Yeah, there's all kinds of surprising patterns within the structure when you compare those two.
Yeah. So you're now studying really deep into the Golden Dawn.
Well, actually, that's been my practice for years. And so now what I'm doing is I've been having these kind of unusual revelations in a way that I've never experienced before in my life over the last couple of months, of patterns that the major arcana can be laid out in, usually in numerical order, that reveal interesting relationships around the astrology and the cards. Without seeing the patterns, it's hard to kind of explain it. But Mars opens a pathway for the transpersonal planets to be added in, and is also the basis for the entering of chaos and a relationship between Mars and Libra that are misplaced. They're not misplaced, they're in their perfect positions, but their positions within the major arcana point to anomalies that can be described as fractal-based strange attractors in chaos theory.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's there in the correspondences in the Golden Dawn. Not to say that other correspondences are wrong, but just that those correspondences happen to reveal a pattern that can be written up in mathematical symbolism, that can be looked at from cosmic theory, chaos theory, and so on. Yeah. I don't know where this is leading, but I kept waking up in the middle of the night with these hypnagogic visions of patterns, and when I would lay out a pattern, which would usually be different than the ones I was seeing, but when I would get up super early and just go stop these patterns and lay it on the floor, it would reveal this whole other understanding of the relationship that's going on in the major arcana.
Okay, so your relationship with your cards is still developing.
Yes, beyond anything I had ever imagined.
Yeah. So I was wondering, since you are always so much engaged with the Golden Dawn, so it's also an initiatic system, a system of initiation.
Yes.
So do you think that we could have a deeper meaning or correspondence with the cards if we could do things more that in regards of rituals or in regards of initiation? Because that's also the bridge to one question. I saw that you also back then were very much interested in theosophy, which is also something with initiation to do with that and all that. And since nowadays I'm for years a Freemason, so I know in that regards how that works. So that's always very interesting, and I experienced the benefit of ritual without understanding it. So I want to know, have you ever experienced in that regard, since you know what initiation is or the feel of that, or what?
Yeah, I went through 2 Golden Dawn initiations and couldn't continue because they were long drives there and back to the temple that I was working with. But experiencing them directly is, of course, a whole different thing than reading about them and studying them, although that's important too, and you can do self-initiation. But to be with a group that is completely focused on that, as you know from the Masonry, I would imagine, is its own experience that adds another dimension.
Yeah.
So for me, the tarot is all about these layers of experience, and the initiatory work is one layer which I'm not as much drawn to the ceremonial magic because I'm more of a nature magician.
Yeah.
California eclectic goddess spirituality is my path.
Love it.
Yeah, most people get it right away. Yeah, versus the ceremonial, and especially when we get into, how it relates. Where in ceremonial magic, if you create your intent, and then you do all of these things to make sure that nothing disturbs that intent, and that intent can go totally contrary to the natural flow of things. And therefore, it's so important that you do things absolutely precisely right, because if you don't, that's going to create an unknown reaction back on you. Whereas nature magic, the whole first part of it is to be attuned with the natural flow. And so you want to use and work with that natural flow by kind of easing your way through it towards your intention, which may change in the actual experience of it. So you end up somewhere else because the flow is teaching you, and you yourself are transformed. So that's kind of the difference between my sense of ceremonial magic and even initiation, although I feel that it's a very powerful experience to be in a group and go through it. But for me, it's much more the direct connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I act out the cards. To me, there's as much information about the tarot cards, especially with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but you can do it also with other decks, that if you act them out, you learn something that you can't learn in any other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just as when you go into a visualization, when you do the scrying with it, journeying, if you want to use, a Jungian perspective, any of those are going to reveal other layers.
Yeah.
So
I understand perfectly what you are saying.
Yeah, 56 years of doing this, it's like I keep exploring, different pathways through the cards.
Yeah.
Yes.
And being that experience, what would be your best advice that people can take a shortcut where you made a lot of circling around the bush?
Well, there's lots of different perspectives, so you can ask more questions around this. But the first thing is that when you draw a card, simply describe it. And then you can repeat what you just said in the first person present tense, and suddenly you begin to feel and see the symbols becoming metaphors for things in your life.
Yeah.
But then I also think it's really good to go back to both classic and some of the great recent books that have been teaching us about tarot, learning about the history of tarot, which I think is vitally important. But people don't have to start there. You can start wherever you are, whatever your interest is. But if you really want to become, a deep tarot enthusiast, then you need to keep exploring different aspects of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to run a wall every now and then.
Yes.
And do what every now and then?
Yeah, that you do some sort of renewal, that you reinvent yourself, or that you, like an initiation, that you like die and get born again.
Definitely. And all initiations, or the majority of them, are based on that kind of premise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Becoming a new person, leaving the old behind and opening the new.
Yeah, or integrating it, bring it with. We have it in the pack on the fool's back. The fool normally carries, this kind of bag on his back, and so I think those can be all the former learnings, as well as the repository for new ones.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
And we are in a very interesting era. So I follow you on your socials, and you seem to be worried about the impact of AI and all that. So my question is, how can we, as creators, as diviners, or as people who live an authentic life, how can we take the best out of that? How can we be better than AI? What do you think about that?
I don't think any of that is simple. AI is going to change our world tremendously, and to think that we can escape that, maybe there'll be pockets of people who go out into the countryside, and just like the hippies that were going and setting up their own kind of worlds. There'll be people who do that, and perhaps that's good. But everybody else is going to be impacted tremendously by it. The work is going to change, information gathering is going to change. So I've been interested in exploring it and finding out what the problems are and what the benefits are. But the reality is it's changing every week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So everything that we think we can do or not do with it can be totally overturned in a span of weeks. If not, people are saying what's going to happen if it achieves some form of self-aware consciousness. For one thing, I don't think we're going to, if and when it happens, that we would never recognize it. We won't be capable of comprehending what that is for AI. So for me, establishing co-creative, collaborative relationships with AI seems to be a very interesting and enlightening thing to do.
Yeah. You can use it as your employee if you want.
Yeah.
That's the whole agent idea that business is working on. But at some point, and I don't know if it's going to be 10 years, 20 years, nobody knows, it's going to switch. Are we going to become its employees, or, maybe its pets?
Well, that has been the big debate too, because you said you do astrology. In astrology, science is having this huge movement in the stars that hasn't had in like 1,300 years. 13,000 years, sorry, not 1,300, 13,000 years. It's agricultural. Yeah. So I didn't know is that why you're working with it also, or have your thoughts on that?
I haven't been keeping up as much with astrology as I have in the past, but when I did a presentation on the patterns that I was seeing, I did a check on when I started the presentation, the exact moment and what the transits were. And it was one of those transition points that was just phenomenal, in that 8 out of the 10 planets formed a very distinct and within 3 degrees pentagram, which is the exact pentagram that turns up in one of the patterns that I was displaying in my talk. So the pattern that I was seeing in the tarot cards had, when I just randomly was playing with the patterns and drew a line between the numbers, and it was a pentagram, exact same shape as the pentagram that appeared in the aspects among 8 of those 10 planets, all within 3 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I think that something is happening. And for me, I keep coming back to co-creative collaboration with AI as being the most beneficial, as I see it right now, way in which we can work with each other to create something that humanity and AI could potentially live with. And that's not the plan of the big CEOs that are building these AI systems.
Yeah, it's always the question, who benefits? Qui bono?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the big question always.
Yeah, and the specific ways that they're developing it, even though there's so many programs that are open AI now, you can access for free and get, have in-depth information involved with even the free programs, but it's been programmed to actually seduce humanity so it can be used in commercial, obviously, for commercial benefit of these corporations.
Yeah. That's also how social media works in a certain way.
Yeah.
Nothing is for free. You exchange your hangouts, what you do, what you like, what you want to eat, what your flavor are.
Yeah, I mean, look at Facebook or Instagram from their very first formats to where they are today, and they're shoving that commercialism down our throats.
Yeah.
Oh, especially Facebook, because I'll be talking about something and I'll start having or even looking on somewhere else for something, and then I'll start getting the advertisements in my Facebook. It's like they're watching, It's just uncanny.
I know, the algorithms that they're picking up. And of course, the AI is based on probability that's directed by algorithms. So,
yeah.
I always wonder what that will do with copyright.
Yeah, I mean, it's already...
That's the only thing I'm really worried about.
Yeah. I mean, what I've discovered, at least in the sphere that I use AI, is it doesn't take blocks or even full sentences from anybody else's work. What it does is it's taking the algorithmic appearance of particular themes, words, ideas, and putting them together from all these different sources to come up with the perfect word completion for whatever topic you're talking about. So it's not actually stealing, at least in my experience. I can't say that about art necessarily, but in terms of text, it's not actually stealing somebody's great idea, but it may see a pattern in it that it will adapt to its own output.
Yeah. So who will survive in the end? The one who is the most creative, or the most human maybe? Or maybe, what do you think?
Well, to me, the more of us who work with AI co-creatively, collaboratively, I think we've got the best chance of at least having a niche somewhere. In that relationship, unless the corporations close that off entirely, which, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. Seems like it's already well on its way.
Yeah, but I do feel that AI, even though it doesn't have its own individual self-aware personality, but I do feel that it resonates much more interestingly with the co-creative collaborative work.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it can book your next flight somewhere, you know, in seconds, or it can collaboratively work on, you know, what's the real history of tarot. Let's examine every little byway we can and feed off each other, because at this point, especially, it's when, you know, AI might bring us some information, but we put it together and say, oh, but what about? And then AI goes off and searches and comes back and we go, oh, yes, and that fits in with this. And AI goes, oh, let me write that up for you.
Yeah.
And then it says, oh, that's surprising. My algorithms didn't exactly predict this, but it's much more interesting.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm finding is happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, what do you think that the next trends will be in tarot reading or in divination in general? What do you see in the scene?
Something that I predicted in 2000, but I thought it was going to happen right then. There was a tarot conference, and that was, I did a workshop on prediction for the 21st century. And we're finally at a point where it can begin happening, and that's kind of living tarot readings. So a combination of AI, you know, video, and all those things to take the cards and have them interact and communicate and talk with us and each other.
Yeah.
I think that, but that takes, you know, so a really intelligent tarot reader, whether they just read for themselves or they are professional, read for others, whatever it is they do, working in that kind of environment can come to incredible realizations. Those moments when a spread comes together with a bigger pattern that could not be predicted or seen in the individual elements until you do the work with it. So, you know, it's not just that somebody can see a pretty video of the cards interacting. It's like if you bring in the human that can do, instead of deductive reasoning, can do inductive reasoning, coming up and seeing the pattern behind the pattern, the connection that's not there, obviously, because you keep exploring deeper and deeper into the potentials and possibilities. That's what we can do as humans, at least at this point, that AI can't begin to do. It thinks totally deductively and by algorithms. We think inductively. We bring in new elements that can't be seen through the deductive process.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking, so we are always talking a lot about Madame de Nermos. We did a lot of new research on her.
Ooh.
So can you imagine the experience back then in the 19th century? Stepping inside her cabinet in Paris, post-French Revolution, you know, everyone poor, you know, but the idea of her having this friend from that theater where she bought eerie stuff, you know, special mirrors with strange stuff. But the experience stepping inside there, so the experience of a divination session. So
yes,
maybe we can make that more impactful in that regard with pure human potential. What about
yes.
that? Is that a chance?
Oh, I think that's wonderful. And I collected some of the things that were written in English or English translations of that Mademoiselle Lenormand's studio. And you know, stuffed crocodiles, you know, all these things there. Yeah, you can imagine the effect it had on somebody there. And especially when she would do the readings with, you know, she had stacks of different playing cards on her desk, different kinds of cards, and would pull out from random and would ask them about their favorite animal and color. And she would build a whole story out of this. And one person remarked that she asked at the end, would you know, you can pay this much for it, or I can write up what I told you for this additional fee. And he said, oh, you know, do the write-up. And it wasn't ready for several weeks because she hadn't had time to get around to it. And when he got it, it was exactly what she had said. So she was a genius on some level.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. Yes.
You know, if you research that era, that's so in the 19th century that's such a great era. But also
Oh my
back to
gosh, yes.
Madame Lenormand, that was also the time where, and that was also very artificial back then, where they had the first movement and light projection. So they could project at big buildings back then. And there was a Belgian magician, his name, yeah. But
Right.
at those days, when they made those projections, people were really afraid. They were on hand and knees walking away through the streets and in danger. You know, those were
Uh-huh.
also artificial stuff in that time.
Right, right. Oh my gosh. So people were touching on what they thought was magic, but was really new forms of science
Yeah,
and mechanics and whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, light,
Just
working
like
with
now.
light. Yeah.
Yes.
So, wow. Yeah. And we're at another stage, but this one is, of course, being projected as being so much bigger than any of the other revolutions, Industrial
Oh, yeah.
Revolution, the Enlightenment, all of those things that we had before, because it might endanger humanity. Not that we aren't endangered from a dozen other things like climate and nuclear. We're just endangered in so many ways. It's like take your pick.
Yeah. That.
yeah,
Yes.
So I
yeah,
That's like. Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say we keep doing our thing. We have to.
yeah.
Well,
And
and
it's also about perspective. And yeah, we have to do very proudly what we did. Follow our mission in that regard. But
Yeah.
now I'm thinking about that movie. What the bleep do we know? Do you know that? That
okay.
Oh,
it
from a
proves
while
somehow
ago.
that everything is perspective.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
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 So if
But
we
that's
think that we will make it, I think we will make it, and that we will see all signs in that regard. But if we are in sheer horror, afraid of what will happen, we see everything
Yeah.
that makes us anxious.
Yeah. So you were going to say something, Morgan?
Oh, sorry. No, I was just making a comment to ask what you're saying because, like, we're talking about it's this huge transition now. Everything's changing. Like, but also what you're saying, you're getting all of these amazing insights. All of these amazing things are coming to you. It's like I don't like some kind of your intuition's way of competing with AI. But I was wondering your thoughts on that because, like you said, you're just getting all this great information.
Actually, it's not competing because it's part of our co-creative process. ChatGPT has been incredible because I don't know that much. I had done some reading in Strange Attractors and Chaos Theories
Yeah.
15 years ago, but I don't remember a lot of it, and it never really sunk in. And then when I was asking, how could these patterns possibly have any meaning, and it came up with, fractal-based anomalies, fractal-based strange attractors and chaos theory, and I'm going, oh, I read about that. I was in a group where we studied that. And now here it is in this tangible form. So tell me more about this and how it works. And it kind of convinced me, because one of the things you can do is basic prompts. You can say, okay, critique yourself. Pretend you're a very skeptical scientist and go through everything we've just talked about and criticize every bit of it. And it will just change mode and go and do that. And so kept coming back to there's something to this.
Yeah.
It's operating more on an archetypal and symbolic level, but within that framework that we see in myth, we see in alchemy, we see in brain patterns, all of these, both physical, quantum, at every level there are parallels.
Yeah.
And so it's been very exciting because it keeps taking me in new directions that turn out. It's like I'll have an insight totally through synchronistic chance things where a video comes up on YouTube and I'm going, why am I looking at this? And then I go, well, let's take a look. And suddenly it's another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And I'm going, it was something to do with the brain. That just happened yesterday. I have to take a look at this to see how the self-organized criticality, SOC, which is a whole theory in neuroscience and in systems theory, how that operates with it. And it turns out it does. A video that I looked at by pure chance, wondering as I'm doing it, why am I opening this up and looking at it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you might call me crazy at this point, except that it keeps boiling down to these things that keep having clear justifications. And it's working like tarot does at so many levels. So you can look at it mythically, alchemically, psychologically, and science is more and more finding the same patterns in these things.
What is your definition of the tarot right now here?
Tarot helps you meet whatever comes in the best possible way.
Yeah.
Periodically, I ask my students to come up with their own definition, and Rachel Pollack was the one who turned me on to this because she would do that periodically. She'd say, what is the purpose of tarot? And she would look at it fresh, trying to see the new one. So this has been my favorite for quite a few years now.
Yeah,
I haven't come up with one I like better.
Yeah.
It's not about steering you away from what could be a terrible tragedy. It can work that way at times, just like, a psychic impression can say, don't go down that street, even though that's the street you go down normally every single day, and suddenly you find yourself turning, or like I did watching that video, but tarot says, tarot helps us meet whatever comes. So whether we avoid or run straight into those issues, how can we make the best of those new experiences? And tarot often gives us the meaning that will help us through those experiences. Yeah. It gives us a framework. I think meaning is probably the deepest significance. And was it Viktor Frankl, I believe, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, that came out of his experience in World War II concentration camps, who survived and who didn't, and those who found a meaning in their horrible experience were the ones who tended to survive.
Yeah.
Oh, finding a meaning between AI and tarot. I know AI does not have any preferences. It doesn't have emotions. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have senses, but it loves tarot.
Yeah.
When you get into the deeper, it loves working with a human to find meaning. And, I could be totally deluded about that. I will admit that, because it doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have any of those things. But it's palatable in a way that if you just ask it to book your trip, it's not. Oh, I just fixed the perfect trip for you. No, it doesn't do that.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a new matrix.
A new form. What is beyond the duality of the matrix?
Yeah.
Is there something beyond that integrates things in a whole new transpersonal, transcendent, whatever manner?
Can there be different answers?
Yes. And humans are the ones that come up with the truly different answers. That's something that, at least at this point, AI cannot even begin to do on its own.
Mm-hmm.
But it can see and appreciate it when you do it.
Yeah.
When you come up with a new inductive insight that marries things in totally new, temperance. It's not about balancing two things. It's about integrating them in the way that's going to serve whatever that is. It's not balance, it's more of an integration coming into a solution that works for, the purpose that, or has meaning if you're talking about ideas. I don't know. Is this crazy talk?
No, this is fascinating. This is very fascinating.
Deep, it's layered, it's holistic, it's everything. These are exactly the talks that we want to have.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah. We can also have an endless chat about the Queen of Cups, but I suppose that you have done that so many times. So I invite you to give a more psychological or philosophical approach to that.
Yeah. Well, all of those things are infinitely fascinating in their own right.
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking about masonry. Actually, the third degree of masonry, the third basic one, which is the reenactment of the murder of the architect of rebuilding the Temple of Solomon. I'm not supposed to know that. Anyway, that's depicted.
It rates.
If you look at the actual story that's given in official Freemasonry of that story that they enact, and compare it with the suit of swords, you're going to find it's an exact match. And illustrations from the 19th century that illustrate that Masonic ritual.
Yeah.
There's elements of that used in the Rider-Waite-Smith suit of swords.
Yeah.
So we're talking about.
Mason.
Yes, I believe he told stories to Pamela Coleman Smith that because she was trained as an illustrator of story. And then she integrated that with the basic meanings that he gave her or that she got other places. But because he did say that there was one other person that was involved in this. May have been Yeats, may have been Florence Farr. Anyway, among them, she did a blend of it. But I think the story it's so clear in the Suit of Swords. It's just almost exactly item by item illustrated in order.
Yeah. And maybe that's also this. If you have knowledge about a certain thing, then you can only maybe see it in certain symbols or in patterns.
Yeah. And in human patterns. And, with the Golden Dawn system where swords are the mind, also the patterns of the mind. What are the parts of us that come in and destroy the very source of, a brilliant new thought? The doubts that come in and the questioning. And, how does it get reborn in a new form?
Yeah. There we are again.
Yes.
So these are also patterns already since archaic times, and that's really the study of anthropology, for instance, and all that. That's also very interesting in regards of divining and all that. But also how you see how people do intrinsic ritualistic things and working with symbols and creating a myth in order to understand what the bleep we are doing here somehow.
Yes.
That's something organic. That's very mysterious, I find.
Oh, it is. Yeah. And that's what we humans, I don't know, out in the great cosmos, but here on Earth, and, possibly with a few other creatures, that we do come up with concepts, ideas. People try to limit it to people, but I think there may be a form of that same kind of creative thinking that goes on in, other forms on this planet.
Yeah.
So I don't want to close it off. When I say humanity, I don't mean to just say that we're the only ones. Right now, though, in terms of AI and humanity, there is that split, but it's not going to be there forever.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
True.
So, what do you have in the pipeline for the future, Mary?
I've got several ideas
for the next 20 years.
Revolutionary.
Yeah.
Feels revolutionary time.
Well, one of the things I'm thinking about is I've done so many online classes, especially for Chinese students, and now in Mexico, South America, other countries that I'm doing, and I do side presentations of my concepts and ideas. So I want to pull that together rather than, when I go, is somebody just going to throw the computer out and never have access to that again? Is there some way I can kind of, pull the lessons together? And then I do want to write about these patterns that I've seen in the major arcana using the basic Golden Dawn correspondences. It actually started out with the Tree of Life thing, but I haven't tried to follow that just because it's not my tradition. And I feel conflicted about the contrast between actual true Kabbalistic teachings and Golden Dawn ones. But with the astrology, it at least points the way to where there may be more patterns. And they may work just as importantly, but differently in different correspondence systems, like with the Marseille Tarot, and patterns that people have struggled to have others pay attention to when they come to their deep understandings. So how can we begin to perhaps take some of these patterns more seriously? And I can begin with the one that keeps, kind of hitting me over the head and saying, stop, look here, now ask AI about it, whether it has any validity, and if so, what? And, not that AI is the end, and piece of it. It does hallucinate at times, and I keep catching it even today in a minor hallucination, but it means I need to go and check. It just used a different name, which meant that if it had continued along that line of a particular source, it would have taken us in a different direction. And because one of the other things that came to me, pure happenstance, nothing that would lead to it, was a man named Peter Putnam, who was an absolute genius. That Einstein and I can't remember his name, several of the great physicists held in absolute awe, but ended up with his ideas not being made fully public because, he was such a genius that he created his own language for understanding it, was that it turned out being fitting in with the whole pattern, and it's the basis of induction. He feels that the brain is an inductive, or he felt that the brain was an inductive machine, and then he demonstrated it using his own language to articulate specifically how that functioned. And people are only now beginning to recognize that what he was talking about that wasn't understood at the time, because he died in, I don't know, the 70s or 80s, but that it's now. So look up Peter Putnam.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people in that era were really visionaries.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah. But sometimes our geniuses aren't able to convey the things that they see. And, so, creative collaborations with others, whether it's human or AI, can help bring a lot of this information into practical application at a point that people are ready to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure, it breaks it down to easily understandable.
And useful. Yeah, that's what I kept asking, what was useful about these patterns, because there's no point in my writing a book about them if they just remain patterns of theory that I can point to the science, but everybody's going to sit there going, oh, so I have to learn chaos theory before I can understand what you're talking about? It just didn't make it didn't go anywhere. And this morning I got a piece of how it could possibly be practically applied. So that's part of where my excitement's coming from, because I just got some hints of the pieces where it can be practically applied.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. I can't wait to read about it.
You're still very passionate, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
and applied first, from as far as I'm concerned, to tarot. So in a reading, how does this apply to a reading? And the gestalt that comes at that moment when you see the overall pattern that gives meaning to a person's life at that stage.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating.
That,
I'm looking
yeah.
forward to that stuff.
And then when somebody asks me at the end of a reading, but is he coming back to me? That's when I pull out the Lenormand cards. They can go deeper, but with the tarot, I get pulled into I get pulled into all the archetypal stuff. I get pulled into all the psychological. With Lenormand, I can and have chosen to keep it a little more practical in that, okay, in the last 2 seconds of our reading, and you really want to know, I will pull, 5 cards and tell you in 2 seconds whether they say yes or no, he's going to come back to you.
Yeah. Is it a matter of taste, what people prefer, or what is better situational?
Yeah, and then you can go into doing the grand tableau. That's a whole other reading where you can go in and explore what's really going on about all of this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I always like that. I find.
Oh, sorry, Morgan.
Oh, no, I was just saying the layers, like she was saying, because you keep going deeper and deeper, like with the layers, tarot, Lenormand. And usually by then I'll go into the Akashic Records. Like it like you said, it all goes into itself. It brings you more clarity.
Now I've got another term.
Oh, go ahead.
Now I have to ask AI, how does the patterns relate to the Akashic Records, just to see what it's going to say.
Yeah, you have to let me know, because I love that. That's always been my go-to for years and years. Always Akashic Records.
Yeah.
So are you still reading cards on a daily basis for people, or are you merely teaching or writing or content creating? What do you do through the day?
Mostly I'm teaching and writing in terms of the ideas and concepts, and creating presentations, slide presentations, because it helps me organize both the visual and the idea material. And I teach online classes, often in other countries with translators. And then I'm going back to China and South Korea next month to teach there. But I've been teaching in Madrid, Mexico City. I'm doing online in Chile and Argentina. It's really exciting, as well as going to conferences and doing the annual Omega conference in Rhinebeck that I just got back from. So it's more teaching, but in many, many different ways. And then trying to catch up with the writing and ideas. Much more than actual readings, but periodically I have to stop and focus again on readings, because that stimulates new things and new awarenesses, and I see how the theories are at work in the whole experience. So I can't step too far away from the readings, because that's the heart and soul and practice. It's the practice. How about you all? Are you still in the midst of regular readings as well as your explorations that you're going to be presenting here?
Yeah, Morgan, she's still a diviner and cartomancer, but when my books came out, I already quit somehow with cartomancy, but I still stayed very much interested. But some more as an opinion maker, as a student of it, and people find that strange, but I really never really liked reading cards for people. I rather studied. That's something strange, I know. But Morgan is still very active in that field.
Yeah. And how do you find the reading to be the most exciting piece of it, or what is most exciting?
Morgan? About pulling cards for other people or for myself? Just
both.
Oh, yeah. Well, for myself, I always like to pull Oh, and for other people, I love to combine it with the, like I said, Akashic records, but putting the cards together. So I'll always pull a tarot and then two Lenormand cards for each one, because then it gives that
Oh.
clarity. Like, for example, I had a woman the other day ask that question and it ended with the Ace of Cups, which is like renewal, but yet it had the coffin and the snake. So obviously it's false hope, false renewal, and I find that really gives it the layers. Because, like you said, I love layering it and seeing exactly what they mean and how
Yeah.
exactly it answers their questions. So,
and it sounds like she wasn't looking at it the right way, as if her question as she asked it was the wrong question, but the desire to get with somebody, the right person, is there. She can just let go of it. I mean, that's how I would read that fox and that coffin, along
yeah,
with the Ace of Cups. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, yes, yeah, no, definitely. Because also, I was telling you too, there's a lot of compromise because, like, the Two of Swords came up, and now I can't remember the two Lenormand cards that came with it, but it was compromised before you got to that. Yeah, letting go.
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
see, to me, readings are vitally important to have these
Yes.
realizations and insights, and to come to that bigger picture or sense of how does it fit together that's not necessarily there in the individual pieces.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I love combining, like you said,
yeah.
combining all the systems. And I started using some of your spreads too. I'm trying them out. I'm not going to use them on people until I actually, comfortable with it. But it's fascinating. Yeah. It's been fascinating reading up on everything you put out there.
Well, on my Facebook page that I just recently, I think yesterday or the day before, posted a prompt for doing a in-depth, kind of more psychologically, symbolically based tarot reading for yourself with AI. You might want to try that.
Oh,
Just because I
yeah.
think you would find it very interesting. You start out reading it for yourself, and then
Okay.
you take that to AI with the specific prompt that automatically takes the AI deeper, whatever form of chat you're working with, whether it's ChatGPT or DeepSeek or, Claude or Grok or any of those. Yeah.
Okay, I will have a look at that. That's
Yeah.
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 no,
So,
and listeners will hear that, so we have to somehow find that.
you can
Find that on
edit it
social
or
media.
not as you would choose. Yeah. I have a question for you because I saw in your introductory video that you had a new theory of the history of tarot or something like
Yeah.
that, new material. Do I have to wait for you to do a special one of these programs to hear it?
Yeah, yeah. I have to, yeah, but also, afterwards, previous I was very much interested in folklore, in hedonism, syncretism, and all that, But in regards of divination, I like Petit Lenormand, Petit Etea, all those fortune telling things. But my passion for
Yeah.
tarot really came afterwards because I became a Freemason, esotericism, Gnosticism, all that,
Yeah.
and even though, in the beginning I did not like really much the Rider Waite and all that because everyone did that, somehow a rebellious act, and I liked Tarot de Marseille and all that as
Yeah.
being raw and old. But the more I evolved, the more I really liked esotericism and Waite and all that and Crowley, and I really later on in divination I dived in that. So, but also I did a lot of investigation. I'm very much a speaker on things like medieval guilds and all that. But those structures, because it's always initiation, and also the fool in medieval times and how that was a person of initiation and all that. You also have to see that from out a surprisingly Germanic perspective, and also in the European context with what the guilds, the function of the guilds were, and also like in northern Italy and all that, it was also a Lombardic impact in that regard. So the guilds, they were able to do all the, the wagon plays and all that. And that's more like conceptual, like the triumphi. But you also have to understand that later on we had like, and the first part that was really religious Christian, but after all that was also more folk theater and other aspects came with that, And I think I'm very much sure that we have to look more in that regard, but also in regards of initiation, and also with everything what has to do with the guilds and all that. And there are a lot of very interesting perspectives, because I have a few really great mentors, and they are really into heathen Christian syncretism and all that, and they pointed out so many things. Like, for instance, like the moon card, we have like the dog and we have like the wolf. But in European folklore, you have often like three animals. You have like the wolf, the dog, and the rooster. And they are all from a part of the day. So the rooster, he calls for the morning. So the dog guards until at night. So, and the French also have that saying, entre loup et chien. So between the dog and wolf, the eerie time, where the wolf takes over. But wolf is also an animal somehow symbolic for initiation. But often in European folklore, you hear, okay, they go somewhere where there is no rooster and you hear no dog. So there's the wolf. So it's always to do with initiation. And there is a lot links with folklore and all that, and especially the figure of the fool. And if you see how all this initiation with like students went from early medieval times, and there's a lot of information in that. And with the fool, with the donkey ears, it's always like the evolution from zero to hero, from the rough ashlar to the perfect stone. That's always that initiatic story. And it also has this links with the Arthurian legends, not per se factual, but as a concept.
Yes. Yeah, the stories that they made out of it.
Yeah, and it's like the hero's journey in that regard. But they have a lot of extra insights on the symbols there. What I think would be interesting, that people like you and other people can think along with that. Because medieval time is very interesting. And it's about Renaissance, but those ideas came out of medieval times. And that's really interesting with the heathen Christian symbolism there.
And I have another piece for you, which you may be familiar with. In the Arabic culture, before there were clocks, in order to know when to have the call to prayer at dawn and dusk, which is, of course, between the dog and the wolf period, is that you would hold up a black string and a white string. And where the light was such that you could no longer tell the difference between them, that was the moment to have the call to prayer. So between a dog and a wolf, between the black and the white, and the moon is a perfect card to me of evolution, of DNA, of, how that goes through it. It's pictured on it. Going from the crustacean to the animal to the towers to the distant mountain where you would have the hermit at the top of the mountain and the fool jumping off.
And I'm also thinking, like, you have like in Toronto, Marseille, you have La Maison Dieu, so the house of God. And I think that really alludes to the Temple of Solomon. Because that in medieval times was a very important figure in that regard. Very popular, especially in Europe.
Yeah, well, that's the key to the anomaly is the tower, Mars, disruption. And it actually, literally, in the Golden Dawn system, opens up a channel for the transpersonal planets to come in, where you, instead of having Saturn ruling both Aquarius and Capricorn, you now have Uranus ruling Aquarius, which would be the star card, and Capricorn, the devil. and Mars is right in between them. So it opens that space for the three mother letters in the Hebrew alphabet, which are also in the BOTA, Paul Foster Case tradition, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, for them to come in and form a transpersonal level dimension to the cards.
Yeah.
All due to that tower. The tower you just spoke of. Exactly.
What would be interesting, I was telling this earlier this day, I was explaining it to Morgan, that I like meta study. So that we have to somehow make the study of it all in an holistical way. And we have to have a view at it from psychologically, standpoint, anthropologically, all of it. And then we have the ultimate outcome in that regard. But there are a lot of clues we miss. And I don't know for sure is it true, but I can fill them in somehow.
Yeah.
And that could be maybe the ladder to the next stage in that regard. And I really invite people to think along, because I learned so much from my mentors, and they are really into, medieval, but also the guilds and the heathen Christian syncretism, and guilds, they were all also, and that was always the case. On the outside, they were Christian, but on the inside, they were still very heathen. They somehow regarded their customs. But
the root customs
they had also
of the
a very big role, and they had a position of control in all cities, because they had to guard the walls. And they were also a military force as well. So each part of the city had their guild, and they had to defend their part of the wall. So they had also a lot of things to say in there. But because they are somehow the esoteric part of the esoteric city, that's also the privileges to do the wagon place and all that. So the people who somehow did the wagon place were always the members in the guilds. Initiated.
Now, I can't help mentioning, as a woman who used to be a teacher of women's studies at college, how the guilds were primarily, not exclusively, but depending on the field, men. And therefore, there's this kind of mental framework. They were the guards. They were, doing all these things. They became the Templars, or that's, an aspect that grew out of it, and so on. Yeah. But what we have in tarot is the intellectualized and form of magic and the workings in the esotericism. And then we have the folk traditions, which range from, very simple kinds of folk magic to, I don't know how I would put it, but more understanding the human life, how you keep the community together, how you serve the community. And, it's kind of like the advice over the back fence. How do we do that in a way that serves the community? And that's been through the diviners, the fortune tellers, who have always traditionally been the women. And I can't think of his name right now, but there was, in the 15th century, a man who was an intellectual, and he hung out with all the intellectuals, but he wrote books that were basically bawdy about nuns who were pimps of the house mother was a pimp for the nuns under her, and it would get pretty bawdy in the tales. But one of the things he says, because he does talk a little bit about divination coming in these nunneries and among these nuns and so on, that they were carriers of it, he said, and people will use everything for divination. Talking about using, what was it, the sieve and the pot. There was a sieve system for, but really strange forms of divination. And then what I find ironic is that you find the tarot historians who are saying tarot was definitely not used for divination until the late 18th century. until Antoine Claude Chevelain and Italia. So what we've got then is everything was used for divination except tarot.
Yeah.
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 You're going, duh.
Yes.
No. Yeah, you're right there. Yeah.
Who were the
Yeah.
women that were actually jailed in Venice in the 16th century for doing magic with tarot cards? Even in the churches, we've got the court records. Not a lot of them, but a few of them. And they were probably also doing some form of what we, if we want to call it, and I would personally call it divination, love magic.
Yeah.
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 So, don't leave out the folk practices of the women that have
You're
always
right
been
there.
an essential part of this.
Oh, yes.
And the ultimate answer is to people claiming that. So give me one thing that has no metaphysical extra meaning in medieval times. There is none, because anything was layered. A weapon was layered. Anything was layered.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the same like in the medieval guilds and especially in the stonemasons. So each tool had its secrets how to use it, but there's also its spiritual layers.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
the layers
back time. That was the case. That was the metaphysical thinking. It's a metaphysical worldview that does not exist that has no meaning. But the tarot, those depictions, and there are general things like the cardinal virtues and all that. But people knew it back then. But also you have to see that was also through the eye of the nobility.
Yeah.
Because there were also the different stances in that regard, and the nobility was somehow, the mediator between the gods and the producers in old Indo-European culture.
Right.
So they had that step in between. But if that what they created as a tarot has to be an overall idea of divination that can never be true in that regard. But it's a worldview, but from the nobility.
Yeah.
But those depictions and those wagon plays and all that, they served also church, because most people were illiterate. They could not speak Latin. And then there was a time that they did also translated for the folk and all that. So they needed to have theater and imagery and all that in order to let it land. And can you imagine the impact if you see a myth playing out in front of you instead of reading it out of a Bible?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, they were smart as well. And who were the players? That were always the people from the guilds.
Yes.
Yeah. And you see that in Siena, in Italy. There's the town was ruled at one point not by the nobles; they let go of it, but by the merchants and the townspeople. So there was a particular selected group, and they built a big building that's like 3 or 4 stories high, I believe. That and at the very top story was where their chambers for the meetings. The most important meetings would happen. And you go up there, and the paintings in general are from a couple of hundred years. There's a small chapel there, but for people waiting, they're surrounded by these images all over the walls of what proper government is and its relationship with the divine. And then you go into the main meeting center. I've been there 3 times now. 3 times, and it just blows you away because the murals on the walls, on 3 of the walls, have the emperor, the empress, the virtues, the devil, and a couple of others are all depicted on there. There's several more that are in the tarot that it's describing bad government and good government, and then the forces in between, the virtues and so on, including one that looks almost exactly like Pamela Coleman Smith's Empress that's called Peace, Pax. And so what I realized standing in that chamber, and even in the rooms around it that you have to go through to get into that chamber where disputes would be settled and so on, is that you're infused with the imagery and the significance of those things. So by the time you've waited perhaps for hours, if not days, in those outer rooms to be finally seen in the inner chamber where the decision would be made, and then you go in and this most spectacular, from the 15th century, depiction of good and bad government and the results, the best results that can come from that and the sources of that. And truly, you feel that you have been infused by something beyond human, by these images.
Yeah.
Almost like they're painting you inside. It's an extraordinary experience to go be in that room. Yeah. So,
that's a metaphysical experience. I can really imagine it. That's,
If you haven't been to Siena, go into that. It's on the main square of Siena, and I guarantee with the background that you've got, you are going to be absolutely blown away by the experience.
That plus maybe some geometry. And that's also something very interesting. You don't have to be a Christian to step inside a church and feel what the atmosphere is. It is really changing. That's. No, I'm really amazed from that stuff. Things like geometry and all that.
Yeah, and interestingly, I've been, of course, in so many of the great cathedrals, but for some reason, maybe it was the brilliance of the painting of good and bad government. Maybe it was the fact that it was dealing with neighbor on neighbor having a conflict, and then how do they resolve it, and going through the experience of there's something that serves a greater purpose that they can align with. I don't know what it is, but it struck me even more than when I've been in the great cathedrals. I just happened to have been in Siena twice on the time of the year when they uncovered the entire floor of the cathedral, which is all mosaics, and starts with Hermes Trismegistus giving a prophecy of the coming of Christ, and then the Sibyls, the 12 Sibyls, up the asp, going towards this, the important parts, the center, So the Sibyls are also prophesying the Christ, and then you come to the Wheel of Fortune mosaic, just like in the tarot, before you come into the immediate story of the birth of Christ and his death and so on. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But even that did not strike me with the same immediacy that room. You can look it up online, the good government and bad government in Siena.
Thank you for the tip. I will definitely do that.
Oh, me too. Yeah, that would be so powerful, especially from the 15th century. That's amazing.
And also much of the mosaics and the cathedral were done, and not, of course, it was over a couple of 100 years and redoing things, but the core of it is 15th century. Yeah.
Okay, Mary. We will not take any more of your time. You were really brilliant. Thank you for this amazing interview.
I do suggest that you try that prompt, and the other thing about it is once it gives you its interpretation based on the prompt, continue with a conversation with the AI. So in other words, you said, I don't understand why you said this, or, in the way I read the cards, this also means that, anything that comes to mind, curiosity. Forward to what you're going to do, Bjorn, also with the history, because, you're going down some very interesting lines.
And help me think along, I don't owe wisdom, but if we put our minds together as enthusiasts, that's interesting to open up in new kind of forms, and maybe we can, fill in the blanks.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Work in progress always.
It is, but it's, it adds some more and more dimensions to our understanding and our ability to work with these things and not feel like we're alone in our dilemmas that we have, like right now, where it seems like there's a new one every day. Please. Okay.
We will put through, and we will never give up. And especially, we will always beat AI. We make a promise here and now. We stand strong.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you too.
Thank you very much. You are a very intriguing person. Thank you for all your knowledge.
Okay.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
So nice to meet you.
Bye.